Welcome to Travel Devil. I'm your host Clara Francken, and in a world full of mass tourism, we're here to talk about unconventional travel. Let's get into it.
A lot of Greek hotels, I'll say this, if you call them directly, they can give you a better price sometimes because booking takes a cut. Actually, there's kind of this agritourism small boom happening right now as more and more locals, international visitors are interested. There's unfortunately been a lot of people come down to Greece, and because we have lax laws with like alcohol and all that, they come down and they just get absolutely trashed and then just wreak havoc.
Welcome to Travel Devil. Today we're talking about sustainable travel with regards to local benefits, especially in Greece. Today I'm joined by Joanna Kalafatis. Welcome to Travel Devil.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm really happy that you're here. Johanna, she is Johanna. Joanna. See, I'm pronouncing your name. Let me retake that.
So in some countries, pronounced like that.
Joanna from the US. I'm pronouncing it in the Dutch way. Joanna is a travel content creator, but she's also an actress in a Netflix series, and most importantly, she's Greek and the writer of Best of Greece Moon Guides. Can you introduce yourself with your own words?
Of course. I'm Joanna. I do travel writing, photography, and publishing, and I also act. And I am Greek/American. I won't say Greek-American because that implies like I haven't lived in Greece, but I've lived in both. So.
Okay, amazing. And so you have deep roots in Greece. Are you born there?
So I was born in New York City, but we moved back to Greece when I was like a year old. So my first memories are obviously from Greece. I have no memories from like 6 months in Bayside, Queens.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of people do.
No.
Okay, and then you grew up in Greece. How was that childhood like?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, it was really a great place to grow up because I'm from this coastal town that's like 40 minutes outside Athens, right between the beach and the mountains. So like for a kid, the best place. Like town of 10,000 people, you bike everywhere, you swim all the time. It's amazing.
Yeah. And which town was that?
It's called Nea Makri. It's like within the municipality of Marathon, which is like, the Battle of Marathon. So it's a marathon's distance from Athens, quite
Mm.
nearly.
I remember a marathon. I've run in this location a long time
Oh,
ago
yeah?
with my high school. We did like an excursion to one country, and now we all went into a bus and we went all the way to Athens, and then we also went to marathon, and everybody had to run, of course, in
Oh,
this
so you probably
location.
ran right by my house,
Yeah,
like just a couple
probably.
streets down.
Yeah, amazing. Okay.
Nice.
And you're also into sustainable travel. How did that start
Yes.
to find a place in your life?
First of all, it's because I do value sustainability in general, both environmentally and locally. And travel is something that can be quite unsustainable. So I look for ways to kind of, make sure my travel has many positive benefits as possible, or at least not negative ones. But also, I think coming from a country that is such a big tourism destination, I saw the negative effects that unsustainable travel can have on communities and the environment. And I just really wanted to make sure that I wasn't adding to that problem when I also visited other places and I was, not doing that.
Yeah. And do you
Yeah.
think it also had like an impact on you when you were a kid that you were surrounded by nature and everything?
Oh, I mean, 100%, 100%. It's just really important. When you're by the sea every single day and you see it, um, when you're by, there's a lake and a dam further up in the forest. It just, we live through wildfires a lot. We had a really devastating one this last summer, actually, that one right near my town. And I think it just impressed upon you how important it is to preserve that because, you see wildlife fleeing, you see people being endangered, you see these beautiful ecosystems just so easily destroyed. And you want to make sure that it really, you're trying to preserve that as much as possible because our world can be so destructive.
Yeah. What do you think is currently being done like against like the impact of climate change in Greece?
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, not enough because, it's something I've really seen while traveling and in places I know well. Like the climate in Athens, even, is just become very different from when, my parents grew up there. My dad moved there from an island when he was like 8 or 9. My mom moved there around the same time. And they're both like, so we're talking from the 60s. And Athens always had a consistent climate, like May to September, no rain, dry heat, but not crazy heat, but like heat. And now it's like you can get thunderstorms in the middle of the summer. We frequently reach like Dubai temperatures, like, 45, 46 Celsius every single summer. We have a heat wave, which never happened. And it's really bad for people, old people, especially in the heat, they don't do well. A lot of people are, last year I was in my town and I was hearing this argument with someone with a power company because the power had gotten out and they had no AC and they had a 90-year-old mother.
1 second. What is a peril company?
Power company, sorry,
Power
in my
company,
town.
sorry.
Yeah. No, and they were arguing and they were really, freaking out because they're like, we have no AC. My mother is 90 years old. She's not going to make it through 45 degrees. Like, she's just not. You need to help us out. So it's really affecting people. And then when I travel, every single place I go to, I'm seeing more of the same thing where locals are like, first of all, people ask me like, "Oh, what weather does this place have when I'm going to travel there?" I'm like, "I don't know. I can tell you what weather it's supposed to have, but I have no idea what that's going to mean when
Uh-huh.
you're there." And then, I go to places like I was up in the Arctic Circle in December and it was raining and 8 degrees Celsius. And the locals were like, that's not supposed to happen. That never happened. So it's concerning.
Yeah, yeah, definitely is. And so when you travel and you say like you want to travel in a sustainable way, when you're in Greece, what are the things you look out for mostly?
Well, it's weird because I prize environmental sustainability, but I also prize like financial sustainability for the local economy. And I find they're actually very integrated because what happens a lot is when you're staying for the most part in locally run places, independently owned places, family owned places, boutique hotels with 12 rooms, whatever, they tend to be much more sustainable and environmentally friendly than like these massive corporate hotel chains, just by nature of how they operate, by nature of the fact that they have thinner margins they have to work with. They do focus on, not leaving as much of a footprint and not wasting as much because they can't. And also because they live in that community, you know, they're going to take more care with taking care of the environment and the community around them because they're from there and they live there. So this is why I'm a big proponent of staying in locally owned places. Not only do you leave money with local businessmen and local entrepreneurs and workers, but you also really are helping to preserve and grow that community and its environment.
Yeah, yeah, that's so important. And
Hmm.
when you're looking for like local companies or local small businesses,
Right.
did you ever encounter like a local that really changed your way you were thinking about travel? Do you ever have like one experience that really stuck out?
The way I thought about travel, interesting. I think the most interesting thing to me has been to encounter people, locals who have passports that really restrict how much they can travel in countries that really, restrict their travel. So it's been interesting to me to just see how inaccessible so many things are that, some of us with like, especially like Western passports take for granted. Yeah. And in terms of sustainability, I've just seen people be very, especially people coming from places where the average standard of living is not as high, just being much more conscientious, I guess, in the decisions they make about what to consume and what to preserve and what to spend when they're traveling. And, I think that's interesting because I think when you live in a country with relative privilege in the world, you can be more wasteful without realizing, in so many ways. Even just like, oh, leave the AC on for when we get back. It's like you can, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And do you think there's like many misconceptions when people go about to travel to Greece?
Oh, so many misconceptions. I mean, well, because Greece,
Yeah, what would be like a top?
well, the top misconception is that I will say there are two top misconceptions. One is that Greece is not a year-round summer island destination. A lot of people ask me like to go traveling to the islands in December or January for their holidays, and I'm like, you can. You're not going to go to the beach. It's going to be like 12 degrees and raining, most likely. So that's one huge misconception. The other misconception, I think, is that Greece is a country of only beaches and islands, and that's what you travel for. Like, to me, it's just such a richer country. To me, it is such a richer country. It's not just in my imagination, right? Um, but like, there are mountains. Most of my friends in Greece go skiing and snowboarding every winter, which a lot of outsiders are like, wait, you can do that in Greece? But it's like, yeah, our mainland is 80% mountains. There's hiking trails. There's, all these places on the mainland, castle towns. The oldest continuously inhabited castle town in Europe is in Greece, in the Peloponnese, which is like wild because people associate castles with, more northern destinations. But I think just the diversity of things to do in such a small country takes people by surprise for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely even surprising me because I know Greece quite well. I've been traveling to Greece for the last 4 years almost, going there every summer
Right.
because my family really loves
Oh,
Greece now. My grandma is learning Greek,
that's amazing.
so she's going all in. And
I can help her out.
every year we're like, oh, should we go somewhere else?
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, no, let's do Greece. As long as my grandma can join, we will be going to Greece.
Well, there's so many places to see in Greece, right? So you can keep changing destinations within Greece.
Definitely, we have not seen the same place 2 times yet. So there's enough to see, I'm sure. But it's also interesting that you were mentioning the mainland because a lot of the time, even with my family, like the idea is to go to the beaches and to be at the water side, which is probably like most tourists would do that.
Right, makes sense.
But then last year, we also took a car. We were like in a little bus with 7 people going into the mainland to do some local activities. Like we went to a little bee farm, which my sister had planned out, which was super cute and like, yeah, very local interaction, I would say, because the people were just like the farmer and his wife. And it was a beautiful, beautiful day. And I was wondering, do you have any tips or activities that you would suggest people to go to the mainland for?
Well, so one of the ones is something you just suggested actually. There's kind of this agritourism small boom happening right now as more and more locals, international visitors are interested. Because, most Greeks also don't really have like daily contact with farming or farms. So it's interesting for us too, there's a lot of farms that make local products like honey and olives. You can visit and see how it's made and eat there and just be in the groves. And it's a really beautiful experience. Besides that, for mainland activities, I'd say the castle town I mentioned, one in Vasya, is really lovely and a great like romantic destination if you're into that because it's a pedestrianized castle town with like all these restaurants and bars and it's from 450 AD, so it's old and gorgeous. But then a lot of friends of mine, because I realize that there's a lot more active tourism happening these days. Like people want to like hike and kayak and do all these things. The northwest of Greece is this region called Epirus, which is all super mountainous and super green. They just got a UNESCO site designated 42 mountain villages or 40 something. They always disagree on the number. We're Greek. We can't, agree on much. But there are these old, beautiful, traditional, like stone built mountain villages up in the mountains with like creeks running through them and this huge gorge called Vikos Gorge. You can take a full day hike through and hike through the villages as well. And I think those are great destinations if you're looking for something more active. And especially if you're someone who, like I mentioned with the heat waves, who's doesn't do well with heat. And, Athens in the summer and the islands can be a lot.
Mhm.
I mean, I just went up there this last summer and I was with a friend from the US and we're driving through and we stopped at some of the towns. It was 20 Celsius, like in August, which, very different from the rest of Greece generally. And he was amazed. His jaw dropped. He was like, "Are we in Austria? Where are we? This is so, where did you take me?"
Amazing. But that's beautiful to hear.
Mhm.
How else can we support local economy instead of big corporations?
Well, I think, check to the extent you can that not only the hotels, but like restaurants you own, local tour guides. I mean, you're going to get a much better experience from local tour companies and guides because they know that area better than anyone,
Yeah.
So just, making sure you leave your money with as many local businesses as possible. And besides that, I'd also say, you know, make sure you're also respecting the local business in the community because I have seen, especially in Greece, they're kind of cracking down in a lot of the stag and hen party tourism. Not cracking down, but like not encouraging it as much. There's unfortunately been a lot of people come down to Greece, and because we have lax laws with like alcohol and all that, they come down and they just get absolutely trashed and then just wreak havoc on everything. And, it's important to realize like wherever you are, that's someone's home, that's someone's neighborhood. You can't go around just like doing property damage and throwing up on everything and be like, yeah, I'm partying because it's,
Yeah.
no. And especially in high tourism destinations, like I just went to Santorini for the first time this last September. I'd never been because it has so many tourists that I never feel like going. Like it's never a place my Greek friends and I plan to go to because we think of the amount of tourists and we already can't deal with it, right? I went there and, so many houses had to put up signs in churches of like, don't step on the roof because, people go out on the roof to take those pictures of like being out on the cliff. And so many houses had to put up signs being like, please don't step on our roof. Don't step on our roof. It's like a problem. It's a structural issue for us.
I've seen a lot of pictures on these places
Yeah.
as well. I mean, I'm not like actively looking at it. I never even
Yeah.
realized that they were standing on roofs.
Yeah, a lot of them are. There are like ledges you can actually go stand in that are fine, but then people like, usually there's a big line there, like people don't want to go find them. So people go on tourists go on people's roofs all the time. And yeah, and it's just like you see the sign and you go in there anyway. And everyone has a mentality of like, well, I'm never gonna be back here. It's just 1 second. But yeah, you have a mentality and then 1,000 other people do every day. So like it really causes a problem.
Yeah, and I think in some way it's also kind of, well, I wouldn't want to really finger point it, but it's kind of selfish to be like, hey, so I'm here, so I'm allowed to like step on other people's houses, basically.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I think the golden rule is, what a lot of our parents taught us. It's like don't do anything you would not want people to do to your house. Like it's just
Yeah.
very simple in your street, in your neighborhood. Like
It's not that hard. That's true.
it's not
I
that
also
hard.
wanted to get your opinion on websites for booking some experiences because there's some websites like, I don't even know, there's a website called Klug Viator, Get Your Guide, TripAdvisors, or whatever. Like,
Get Your Guide is great for European-based experiences, I found. Viator and Get Your Guide are both great, but Get Your Guide just, I believe their headquarters are in Berlin, so I think it just operates more on the Europe side. I've used Get Your Guide a lot because what they do is they partner with local tour companies. So they basically showcase all the local tour companies available, right? So you can kind of find all of the local tours available through them and book them there. So it is a big company, but you're not actually booking their tours. They're just like, here are all the local tours in, let's say, Athens, book one of them. I've used them a lot. It's always been local tour guides when I've used them. It's always been local tour companies. I've had great experiences, and they really help people who it'd be hard for each individual company to really market an international audience and get heard. So they kind of aggregate all of that in one place. So I've used Get Your Guide a lot. I've always had a really, really wonderful experience and just really knowledgeable people telling me a lot about, when I travel, I don't just want to see destinations and sites. I also want to get a sense of like the culture and what people there, what their lives are like, what they take pride in, what their issues are. I love to get that sense of just the local community.
yeah. Yeah, I've used Get Your Guide as well for two experiences actually last year because my friend works there and she had a discount code.
Nice, of course. Yeah.
That was easy. But then I was thinking back on it because the second thing I wanted to participate in, I think I called them because I was wondering, and then they were on the phone. They were like, "Yeah, but can you please book it through us?" Because the booking company obviously takes a big cut, and so there's a lot of
Yes,
the money that I would be paying that's actually not going to the company. Obviously, it's giving them a platform, which is great and important. But at the same time, like this year, I was really thinking of trying to just look on Google Maps for the next holiday in Greece so that I will really find something specifically myself and contact them.
for sure, go with the local company, and actually, that's a great suggestion for, because Booking.com also takes a quite big cut. So a lot of Greek hotels, I'll say this, if you call them directly, they can give you a better price sometimes because Booking takes a cut. So like if you pay them directly, sometimes they can work things out. Not always, but you are leaving more money with them if you find the hotel in Booking and then call them. But another great company I actually really want to recommend that I've used is Eat With. I don't know if you've heard of
Hmm.
it.
I've not.
It's really great for that like local interaction. Like you said, basically I think they've expanded to like food tours in a city now with local guides, but the original concept and most of what it still is you eat with local people, local families in their homes. Like they make food and invite like 3, 4 travelers, and you go there and just have dinner and in someone's home and talk about things for hours, talk about your country, their country, what's happening, how you're finding it. And it's really kind of amazing because you're really just sitting down with these new friends over dinner, eating local food. They're explaining to you a lot of the food and the tradition of it. You're getting to see like an actual local apartment house and how people live. So really one of the best local experiences you can have. And they also give you great pointers for what to do in their city, obviously.
Okay, so and that would be like you would book like a dinner with them, or how does that even work?
Yeah, they offer dinners. They just really just make dinners in their homes, and you go online and you can see reviews and stuff, and with different hosts. That's what they're called. They're like, yeah, eat with Andrea and her family in Slovenia, and you go in and use an example of things they did.
That's so funny. I've never heard that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's honestly a really great experience. I last time I went there was me, it was this other girl from London who was backpacking and this couple from Germany and a local family with like grandparents and all. We're just sat there chatting about things. It was really nice.
That's amazing. I'm definitely gonna check that out after our call today.
Yes, it's a really great company.
Amazing. Okay. I want to go for a quick round of this or that, if that's okay with you.
Ooh, okay.
First, this or that. Interaction with locals or a hidden island gem.
Interaction with locals.
Okay. Can you tell me why?
It's just so much of the reason I travel, honestly. Like, I really got motivated to travel this way. My study abroad, I was staying with homestay families in Brazil and South Africa, and I saw the countries in such different lights. So I'm like, this is always the way I want to travel. I just want to travel this way and come away with a much bigger understanding of the place. So yeah, interaction with locals.
Amazing. Santorini or Mykonos?
Oi, Mykonos. Honestly, like if you're asking me about Greek islands, I would say like go somewhere else. But I would be up for partying a couple days in Mykonos. It's been a while now, and I think I can do it for like 2 days at my age. Yeah.
Okay. And do you think it's even better to go to a third location if you want to do sustainable travel?
I would think it's much better to go to a third location unless you're looking for like crazy nightlife or like incredibly expensive. I mean, for Greece, expensive tourism. And Santorini is unique, obviously, and beautiful. But I think there's 227 inhabited Greek islands, right? There's a lot of places that are cheaper. You get a more authentic experience, lovely beaches, and you're not like competing with just like hordes of people from everywhere.
Third one. Ferry hopping or slow travel on the mainland?
Ooh, slow travel on the mainland.
Okay. Why?
I mean, I love slow travel and like kind of road trips in general because you can stop at whatever you think is interesting and just spend time there. So for me, and also again, less tourists, but yeah, for me, just a much better way of getting to know real Greece. So
Okay. And if now a tourist is or a person is listening to this podcast and they're like, yeah, actually I want to go to Greece. I want to go there for 1 week. I don't know what to do. What would you suggest?
I would suggest, well, I quite literally wrote the book on this because I just wrote Best of Greece for Moon Travel Guides. I would suggest, depending what they're looking for, if they want more active, like I said, I would go up to Metsovo and the region of Zagori in Epirus that I mentioned before. And then you can go out to the beaches out there, Parga and Sivota, which have amazing beaches in the same region. Like 1 hour away, you go from mountains to some of the best coastline in Greece on the Ionian side too. On the other hand, if they're looking for kind of more that Greek, like that island feel, the southern Peloponnese for sure. I would just do a road trip on those three fingers, starting from Monemvasia, the castle town in the east, ending up at Pylos in the west, and just following like that coast through Mani. I think is a great experience.
With a car or by public transport?
Unfortunately, in the southern Peloponnese, there's not much in terms of public transport that's going to get you around. So definitely rent a car. The roads are a little windy down there, so drive carefully, but they're perfectly fine to drive on. Just you're going to be going slow for most of the time.
What do you think of public transport in general in Greece?
It's not the best, honestly, outside Athens. We have trains connecting like the big cities of Athens and Thessaloniki. We do have buses, I will say. I have actually used the bus system. It's pretty great to get to even some islands there's an island that my dad's from that's accessible by bridge, and there's a bus that just goes straight there. And the buses are pretty modern and, AC, very comfortable, very big, so fine. The buses can get you from Athens to a lot of places, so I would say you can use those for sure. There's a great metro in Athens, actually, that can take you out of the main tourist neighborhoods into other Athenian neighborhoods. Very modern, very clean, again, like really efficient. But in terms of like trains to a lot of places, it's not like most European countries there. We don't have a lot of train connections. It's mostly buses in the metro in Athens.
Yeah, to be honest, I also heard that like Greece is one of the worst countries to do train travel in Europe.
I mean, there's just no real train travel outside of like a couple things. And we had, we've had we had a big tragic incident with one of our trains a few years ago. So there's like a big thing in Greece right now because of that. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure they could work on to make it happen and accessible in the future. Yeah, definitely.
For sure. And they're improving the road system for the most part now. So that's why, I'd recommend like to get to my dad's island when I was young, it used to take 7 hours and now it's 3.5 just because of all the new highways built. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, see, that's already amazing. Yeah. When I traveled from Greece back to Germany 2 years ago, because I flew with my family and I was like, I don't want to fly back. I want to make it an adventure. So they flew back and I traveled a bit slower, I would say.
Much slower.
I was on the road for a couple of days. And instead of like, I was thinking first, yeah, we'll go through Greece and go up, was impossible almost because there was no train that would bring me to the next country. And like even international continuing the road would be really tricky. I would need buses and everything.
The inter-Balkan travel is not well developed without a car. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And so what I did was directly took a ferry. Well, actually, I first took a bus to get to the beach,
Patras. Yeah.
of course, Patras, and then I took a ferry to go to Bari, which is south of Italy.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I think it continues to Ancona, but it stops in Bari first. I'm not sure.
It does. I've done Munich to Athens a couple of times, and it's always the route we take as we go down to Ancona and take the ferry over. But yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But of course, if you can already get on to Ancona, but for me it was nice because I've got a couple of friends in Italy, so I was like, oh yeah, I've got a friend in the south. I have a couch here, so perfect. That was the best. Amazing.
But yeah, unfortunately, public transport is not well developed. It definitely is, rent a car. And I will say it's definitely great. The roads infrastructure is really being developed. If you're going up to mountain villages and stuff like that, just, be sure you're good with driving on mountain roads, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, you just mentioned that you were traveling by train between Munich and Athens. How did that come about?
Oh, it wasn't by train, actually. It was a road trip. But it was just, I'm saying, even with the cars, though, it was just much easier to travel down to Ancona. And then that was a family trip. And then, take the ferry over. Yeah, we had just floated with my family to Germany. And then we're like, let's drive down and spend a couple days in Italy, too. So
That's cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but that's really nice. And in the end, like you're on with the car, but you're not riding on the ferry. We can both be on the ferry, but yeah.
I've done 4 weeks of train travel in Europe from Barcelona to Budapest. That's where I ended up.
Oh, amazing.
And it was honestly really great. I got a Eurail pass. I did a collaboration with them. And it's kind of great because you can just hop on, hop off, stop at a place along the way. I ended up staying a couple of extra days in Venice because I was having a great time. I may or may not have met a local Italian man, and then just kept going. Uh, but anyway, great times. I really love like a lot of Europe for that. The train travel is really great. I'm considering trying to put together like an Amtrak, like the American train travel here trip. It is harder and like it's not as comfortable.
Yeah.
Because it's not as well developed.
Most of my listeners are based in Europe. So Eurail, what you are saying is Interrail for us. So Eurail is what you're using because you're not based in Europe. And for everyone else in Europe, it is Interrail. About Amtrak, I actually want to take the Amtrak once as well, but I'm also not sure because my goal was to go from LA to New York with the Amtrak train, but then I looked.
Oh God, no.
And yeah, every time I'm asking an American, they're like,
why?
Don't do that.
Oh my God, I don't want to say this, but like there's not as many stops in the middle of the country. And also you can't really they don't have that kind of hop on, hop off, I don't think, for Amtrak. So like if you take it, you're just taking it. Like you're not.
Yeah, you're stuck on a train for 4 days.
Yeah, like with an Interrail pass, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get off here and then, stay at a hotel. But in the US, it's not like no, you booked a cabin, you're going, you booked a suite, roomette, whatever they call it. The Northeast corridor is slightly more well developed, like New York to DC, New York to Boston, all those kind of high traffic areas. I have taken one to DC and to New Haven, Connecticut, on the Boston route, and it works. But yeah, it's just like, it's hard. Like I'm trying to plan a trip now to Detroit, Chicago, Indianapolis, which are three cities that are pretty close to each other. But then I have to plan it very specifically to make the trains work.
Yeah, I'm really spoiled with that, I think, because I live in Germany. I'm from Belgium. And I mean, I know how to drive, but the only reason I would need to drive is like I take my parents' car to do big groceries maybe once a year for my birthday.
Exactly.
Okay, I also wanted to get your take on island hopping in Greece.
I mean, I actually think it's a great way to see things. I've had a lot of people ask me, like, they want to visit all these islands. They're like, "Oh, can I do Corfu and Santorini and Milos?" And I'm like, those are like very different in geographically. So what I would say is, if you're going to go island hopping, pick islands that are in the same island chain that are serviced by the same ferries. So, like, for example, there's a ferry, like there's a cluster where there's like a ferry that will go to like Paros, Naxos, Mykonos, Tinos, and there's another one that goes to like Sifnos, Serifos, Milos, so like those are different. So pick islands on the same chain, so you're not like having to change ferries, go back to Athens, come back out. It's just a pain. I think it's a great way to get a sense of like the different vibes. Like one I really recommend to people is Sifnos, Serifos, Milos. I do think is a really great three. For Milos has gone more known among international tourists for sure. You can also go to Kimolos next door, which is way quiet. It's like really tranquil. It's like you go there and just relax on the beach, honestly. Sifnos is known for really great food, and it has a little castle town as well. And those, whitewashed kind of houses, beautiful. Serifos is a little more like a bohemian vibe. There's some beaches that are like clothing optional. It's a lot of people in Greece. Like I went there, I've been there 2 years in a row now because a lot of my friends like to go there. And it's like 25 to 40 people at bars and stuff. Local Greeks, I would say 95% of the people I encountered were local Greeks. It's like Greece, it's not the new Mykonos because it's not like that crazy, but it is like if you want to go out and bars and have fun with young local Greeks, that's kind of the way. Alternatively, you could also there are local boat companies that do take you around with other tourists to different places. A couple of my friends from the US did that when they visited, and they had a great time. They had a Greek captain on board who was a very colorful character, from what I understood, and someone making them like food when they were not eating at the islands, and they had the best time. So,
Amazing. So that was a sailing boat, kind of?
sailing boat, yes.
Yeah.
I think it was 8 people total plus crew.
My family and I, we've been traveling every time to Greece, like I said, and every year, one of the things we have to do is go on a sailing boat. And I would love to hear your tips, and then maybe I can share some of mine as well on how to find a good sailing experience. Did you ever go on a sailing boat yourself on a trip in Greece?
My dad, now getting close to retirement, just got a boat a couple years ago. So we've been on it because it's based on the island he's from. We've been on it a couple years.
Easy.
So yeah, that's pretty easy. So you might actually have better advice than me. I know, like, if you look up, there are just a lot of local places that do those kind of excursions. And depending on how much you want it to be self-directed, like you can either just rent a boat with a captain and kind of arrange your own schedule, depending on whether obviously what the captain suggests is possible, or you can just go in a pre kind of selected sailing cruise. But yeah, I think it's a really great way to not only see the Greek islands, but also experience that much slower pace of life, because time really comes to standstill on a boat in the middle of the sea. Let me tell you. So it's really just the most relaxation and definitely that island
I mean,
vibe.
it can be. I think it really depends on the kind of tourists as well.
Hmm.
Because the very first time we've been on a sailing ship, I remember, again, it was with my whole family. And I remember that we were looking for a nice place. And then we sent a message through Click and Boats, which is a website
Yeah.
that you can find nice ships on. So we sent out a message, and he didn't speak like super well English, but it was good enough to understand each other. And Google Translate is definitely good enough. And then he was arranging that we would have some food, but he was cooking it himself. It was so sweet and such a great encounter to be on this boat with this random guy. And then, but he thought we would be like the most of the tourists and we would want like music, but and he was like using his motor, and then he was like music playing, like not super loud, but to make it a kind of a vibe or whatever they want. But
Yeah.
for us, it was really about like, we want to slow down. We just want to be here with our family. We are a very loud family, so we talk loud enough. We don't need music on the background.
I'm Greek. You don't have to tell me. I'm a loud family.
So we told the guy, we were like, yeah, could you maybe turn down the music and maybe put off the motor and like put up your sail? And he was so happy. He was like, whoa, yes, of course. He was like, We
He
were
definitely
like,
much preferred that to what he usually yeah.
yeah, probably he was like so happy that we requested it, but he was not
Yeah.
doing it because most tourists maybe don't ask. So what I would maybe suggest or say is that if you're going for such an adventure and you're booking a ship, of course, only if it's for yourself. If you're booking it with a lot of other people, it's more tricky to be like,
Right.
I'm dictating the rules now. But if you're with a very small group, you can probably just ask them and be like, hey, how about doing this slight change? Would that be okay? And then, I mean, it was a great experience. The guy was happy. We were happy. We had amazing conversations.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. So last year we were in Naxos and we didn't find a cheap or cheap enough, let's say,
Mhm.
for our budget because my sister and I wanted to give this to our family. So we wanted to keep it within a certain budget.
Right, reasonable.
So we looked on Get Your Guide actually, and we found this experience and it was pretty nice. And it was like a more special boat. It was a catamaran with like these nets. It was picturesque, of course, but the experience was totally different from what we had before. And I would say that I preferred actually to have like this local interaction and the slower pace. With Get Your Guide, we were with almost only Americans, and then there were two Germans, and then there was our family. It was quite a big group. I think we were like 20 or 25 people on the boat.
Right.
Both experience are valid and are nice, but if you have the opportunity, I definitely also prefer to have like the smaller group because you will have more meaningful conversations on the ship as
I
well.
was gonna say the bigger the group, the more
You will not stay in your group.
exactly, the bigger the group of people, the more you tend to stick with just the people you came with and not really interact with anyone else. So, and also like you said, smaller group, you can have conversations with the captain and talk about things and kind of set the mood. I mean, I went with a few friends last year or the year before, and it's funny you mentioned that about the music because oh my God, we were so I guess we're also just really need a vacation. We'd all been like working kind of double time. And we got on there and the first day we're like, oh, should someone put on a playlist? We're like, yeah. And then 3 hours later, we're like, yeah, okay, I guess no one's doing it. And then we realized the entire trip we didn't even put on music. We just like chatted and chilled in the sun and dove off. And like, we didn't even have the energy to deal with that. We're like, no.
That's beautiful, but those are the best experiences, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, you can enjoy the silence. You cannot enjoy the silence with everyone. So that's
No, you cannot. No, you cannot.
sailing ships. They use motors. Do you know why they do that?
Well, it depends, I think, on how strong the wind is and what the direction of the wind is, because
Mhm.
you can't always rely. In the summer in the Greek islands, there's usually a pretty heavy, good wind going, but sometimes it's not. So, in order to make the ports of call you've kind of planned out, you have to have the motor as a backup just to make sure that you can make it out there. But it's beautiful to sail and kind of have that quiet on the sea. But sometimes also the wind just isn't favorable to go in the direction you want to go. You need to go against because I'm not a sailing expert by any means, but you have to go, I think, perpendicular kind of where the wind's going, and like sometimes you just need to go in another direction, so you need the motor assist.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess for longer trips, using the sail is more convenient than for shorter destinations. If you're only there, like on a ship for like half a day,
Yeah.
the probability will be very low because you also have to stay very close to the land where there will be less wind, I'm sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. Can you give some final tips for like island hopping as well? Because you were mentioning before that there's some cities or some, well, cities slash small islands which you could island hop between. But I'm wondering how, when I'm on this island that I'm have not so much time on, how do I make a sustainable choice of what to do?
On the island itself?
Hmm.
On the island itself, I would say, same tips that kind of apply to the rest of Greece, and the good thing about Greece is that over 90 to 95% of, I think it's somewhere there, 95% of all hotels are locally owned. We've somehow managed to keep that, which I don't know how. Good for us. But like, so, if you're staying in places, you're probably actually leaving money for the economy. Don't leave anything behind on the beaches. Make sure, like a lot of people, locals included, we're not exempt from this. A lot of people like smoke and leave cigarette butts or like leave their trash. Just because there are also high winds, make sure that like any trash you're accumulating on the beach, the wind can very easily, come by, and even if you plan to throw it out later, come by, take it out, throw it on the sea. Make sure you have like a little bag or something that's tied down that you're putting it in so it doesn't just scatter all over the place and then, become pollution. Yeah, so especially on the beaches, make sure you're kind of leaving nothing behind. You take everything you brought.
Yeah, and on the ship?
On the ship itself, it's harder because obviously the ferries are gonna have some environmental impact. I mean, you can always, like, buy carbon offsets to the extent those do or don't work. There's a lot of debate about that. Honestly, there's not much you can do there. It's a few ferry lines that operate in Greece. You're gonna take one of them. It is gonna pollute on the way there. I believe now they're instituting this is something I'll have to look up because I think it's very recent,
Mhm.
but I believe you can now look up some lines that are more modern, especially, have a better, like, environmental efficiency rating, so you can look up to make choices 'cause, there's some ships still operating in Greece that I'm like my mother remembers them from when she was growing up. Like, they're gradually going out of commission now. I mean, they have to at some point. But I think a lot of the more modern lines and, you can look up kind of the sustainability impact between, like, Minoan and Blue Star and the major ferry lines to make sure you're at least going with the least impactful one.
Mm, okay, that's nice tips. What I would also add, maybe not on the ferry part, but on the sailing part as well, as a tip for being on the ship, is the sunscreen. That you take care of like what sunscreen you choose, because there's a lot of sunscreen which is bad for the environment. Of course, it's very difficult to find a good one, but it exists. And the cap of your tube, um, like don't let it fall in the water.
Go no, 100%, and that's also when sailing.
Don't let your food fall in the water, or plastic bags, or take care of your little cups.
Generally don't let things fall in the water.
If you can bring if you can bring a cup on an experience that's a bit heavier, that might be
Yeah,
smarter than using the cups they will give you, because they will most probably give you little plastic cups where you have to write your name on. And
100%.
so if you bring your own cup, this is like heavy and it will not just fly away.
Mhm.
That would be what's coming on top of my mind as well right now.
Yeah, no, definitely, 'cause, yeah, a lot of the sunscreens, like you said, they have, different minerals in them that if you wear them and then dive in the ocean, you're immediately kind of they're not great for the marine life, basically, but there are good ones that don't impact badly, so
Yeah, yeah, there are enough good ones. So, but you just have to look into that, of course.
but definitely wear sunscreen in Greece, especially if you're coming from a
Yeah, yeah, I would not recommend not to wear sunscreen.
unless you're going in January, yeah, in the summer, you're definitely I've seen a lot of red people walking around Greece in my time who underestimated.
Okay. I would love to wrap up, but I've got two last questions for you.
Of course.
Was actually one local sustainable practice that you've seen in Greece that we can learn from?
Huh. We're not really the most sustainable society. I'm trying to think.
If I can say something, you can continue to think.
Yeah, say something because 'cause I'm drawing blanks, yeah. Yeah.
For me, just what I've seen when I was in Greece is like the slow pace in general. I mean, sustainable travel also often equals to slow travel.
It's very true.
Of course, this is maybe also due to the choices we make in the way we travel. But I would definitely say that the Greek people are easygoing, like they enjoy just chilling as well, and they don't have to hurry to the next meeting. They don't mind being a bit too late. And I think maybe it's not directly sustainable, but it somehow also is.
It definitely and especially as you get outside of Athens, that mentality prevails. I did, think of something else as well, which is in addition to that slow kind of pace, like I mentioned before, we are prone to wildfires. So a lot of Greek people well, not the ones who set them, but a lot of Greek people who are more conscious are very conscious of, like, wildfire risks. So a lot of times you'll see, like, they'll will literally have signs on some of the highways in Athens going out to the beaches of like high fire risk today, high winds, don't light it. Like there's a beach by my house that's it's a national park. It's protected because there's a forest that goes right up to the beach and it will be closed on very high windy and hot days because they don't want people there like smoking a cigarette on the beach or like lighting a fire or anything. They don't want anything that could ignite a fire there. So for one sustainable thing, especially when you're in a dry, hot place like Greece, just be very aware of like if it's a high wind, very hot day, don't do anything like, if you're a smoker, watch where you're smoking. That's usually a big one. If you're gonna do a little bonfire on the beach, don't. Just be very aware of like that fire risk. That's a very Greek thing that's ingrained in us.
Yeah. And then my last one would be, what is your most breathtaking or beautiful view you had when you were in Greece?
Oh, I'm God, so many. Oh my God.
Maybe you can choose one which is like a lesser known location.
So here I'm gonna be a little biased because of nostalgia because it is my grandpa's hometown. But it's out on the west. There's an island called Lefkada. The Ionian Islands in general, because they kind of come out of the water really. They're very steep sloped, so they have really beautiful views and like cliffs and all that. And my grandpa's town called Exanthiad faces the west, and it's become popular literally for the sunset view. Like tourists will come there for that. The locals, though, mostly. There's a restaurant and a bar that's just facing the sunset, and you can see the village of another village of the island below you and the sea and the colors of the sea, and then you're looking out of this view, and you can actually even go paragliding from there down to the beach below.
Okay.
Honestly, not just my bias because like family connection, but it is literally one of the most beautiful views. I mean, the town has become famous off that view alone. So yeah, I would say a lot of the western side of the Ionian Islands in general, but particularly Lefkada, the town of Exant, yeah, absolutely stunning.
Right. I'm gonna ask you one more question actually, because I'm now thinking about the fact that I'm going to Greece again this year, of course. And we're going this year, we're going to Corfu. Do you have any tips or ideas on what to do in Corfu?
I mean, there's so much. I mean, the old town, the historic town of Corfu is like the main attraction, right? It's absolutely beautiful. You could walk through it and just eat and get ice cream and walk for hours. There's a little island called Podikonisi, which is really interesting. It translates like Mouse Island. It has one inhabitant that watches over the church there.
Cute.
You take a little, boat from, Corfu, you just go I mean, it's literally like 20 minutes, I think. It's a really cute place to visit, and, I actually had a whole conversation with the guy that's there. It's interesting to just hear his story, about how he just stays there and watches over the island essentially. And
Amazing.
it's a cute little island with a church in the center and things to, do. Yeah, there's also a lot of the villages. I'd say a lot of people in Corfu go to the beaches, which are really beautiful, go to like all the beaches they recommend. But there are a couple really interesting towns up in the mountains of Corfu, which are really beautiful to see. And there's a big abandoned town there, I know, that's kind of haunting and pretty if you're into that more offbeat stuff. So
Taking the grandpa and the grandma.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe not for that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course.
At the end of every podcast, I do have a closing round of questions, which are very easy to answer with one word or a small sentence. So, if you're ready to go, we will close it up.
Sure.
All right. How old are you now?
35.
How old were you the first time you traveled to another continent? Well, we know the answer. One.
Well, one. Yeah. But that I can remember, 8. Yeah.
What's the longest time you've been away from home?
If I'm counting Athens and New York as home, I think, 5 months.
Okay. Where were you?
I was in Brazil and South Africa for my study abroad.
Amazing. Would you rather save money on accommodation or pay for good beds?
I'd rather save money on accommodation. I still want the bed to be decent because I am 35 now and my back does hurt sometimes. But I spend 95% of my time in the cities exploring stuff. So I just want like a central place that's clean and comfortable and that's it. Like I don't want bells and whistles.
Perfect. Would you rather see a lot of places or get to know one place really well?
Oh, that's hard. I'm actually gonna say a lot of places. I do wanna get to know one place really well, but I wanna see so much too, it's hard to decide.
Okay. What words would you teach a foreigner who wants to learn your language, and what's your language?
Well, my language is Greek, and I would teach kalimera, which is good morning, and ευχαριστώ, which is thank you. Because if you say those 2 things, most Greeks will just be, especially over the age of 50, will just be so happy you made the effort and so much nicer.
Amazing. Okay. What can't you travel without?
I can't travel without my, well, great walking shoes, honestly. I really realized the importance of that. I clock like 20,000 steps a day and I will get blisters and die.
Amazing. What's your favorite travel song or a song you like to listen to when you're traveling?
Okay, this actually, I'll say this is very dependent on place.
Okay, Greece.
In Greece, in Greece, I will put on a lot of Greek music, honestly, because I do love a lot of Greek singers, especially the classic Greek singers. So like Kazadzidis, Theodorakis, just a lot of their compositions. And yeah,
Okay. Why do you travel?
I travel because I believe there's a lot we can't even deign to think of if we stay in just our culture. And the more we're exposed to other people and other forms of thinking, the more our worldview expands.
That's beautiful. I like that explanation.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for being part of the podcast and for sharing so much information. Where can my listeners go ahead and find you?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. Well, you can follow my blog at losethemap.com. You can follow me on Instagram is where I'm the most active, Joanna.Kalafatis. And I did just start a YouTube channel, but guys, video editing is hard. It's gonna take me a while to upload the first ones, okay? It's so hard if you don't know it.
I know.
Yes, you know, I'm sure.
Okay, perfect. And on Instagram as well?
Yes, on Instagram as well. That's my name, Joanna.Kalafatis. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I will put the links in the show notes. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you so much. This was great.
This was Travel Devil, brought to you by me, your host, Clara Francken. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to continue the conversation or suggest any future guests, you can go to my Instagram, @Clara Francken. Take care, and I will see you next Thursday.